You're listening to the Limitless Leadership Podcast, the podcast designed to help automotive repair shops learn how to lead, coach, train, and manage their team better by sharing proven techniques and thought-provoking interviews from industry leaders. Are you ready to transform your leadership skills by tapping into unrecognized potential to achieve limitless results? Let's get ready for liftoff. It's time to go from great to greater. Here's today's episode.
Hey everyone, before we get into today's episode, I want to let you know about the training that Limitless Leadership is doing in Dallas, January 16th through the 18th, 2025. We're going to be doing a leadership, performance, sales, and technician hybrid type of training. No one else in the industry is doing this. Hosted by Standard Motor Products, will be in Dallas at their facility, January 16th through the 18th. If you have any interest in joining, this training is industry leading. Reach out to me via email, josh@thebeardedleader.com for more information. Hope to see you there. Now, let's get into today's episode. All right, welcome back. We're jumping right into today's episode. And by the way, if you like this episode, please consider leaving a review, because the more reviews that we have, the more these episodes get pushed out, and it allows us to reach people and build leaders. Speaking of leaders, I'm joined today by a great leader that I know very well. He is the VP of Limitless Leadership. He is our lead performance coach. He's a trainer. He's also a speaker. Our guest today is Mr. Brandon Jones.
Thank you, Josh. Excited to be here. Just to talk about one of my favorite topics.
Which is?
We're going to be talking a little bit about goal setting today. And just real excited to dive into it. And let's go.
Yeah, let's go. Let's go indeed. So let's talk about goals. Before we talk about goals, why we have them, why we need them, how we do them, share with the audience who you are, what you do, how you do it, all those great things about Mr. Brandon Jones.
Yeah, let's go. Brandon Jones, performance, sales, a little bit of everything, operations, workflow. I do a lot of that for the automotive aftermarket, in particular through our training and coaching program at Limitless Leadership. Father of two amazing boys, Benjamin, who is 16, and Jackson, who is 14. And man, right now we are all things basketball. So, That's me in a nutshell right now.
All things back. That's a quick nutshell. I mean, one thing about you, Brandon, you and I met when we were both I was at Christian Brothers Automotive, and we met at a leadership conference hosted by John Gordon and his team. And from there, we were able to connect on LinkedIn. And then I was looking for a service development trainer maybe 4 or 5 months later, and we connected, and you were able to join the Christian Brothers team alongside me, and did a great job while you were there.
Thank you.
Of course. And you mentioned a couple buckets earlier when in regards to performance coaching. Mm-hmm. So right now there are a lot of great performance coaching companies out there in the automotive repair industry. We know quite a bit of them. We're friends with quite a bit of them. And we do believe in collaboration, not competition. They're great at what they do. What separates you as a performance coach in the industry from other performance coaching companies out there?
A lot of it has to do with, when we talk about performance, we talk about really just a handful of buckets. A lot of people think when they talk about performance, it's specifically metrics. And that's a big part of performance, right? We're setting the goal and we're working actively to achieve it. But when we think about performance, really in the automotive space, which is where we're living, it's so much deeper, right? So we have sales, right? Sales is a big component of achieving a result. We talk about workflow. That is a big component of, if we're trying to hit certain KPIs, we got to make sure we can get the cars in and out of the shop efficiently. So that's a big part of what we talk about. We talk a little bit about creating culture. I mean, there's so many things that go into what we have deemed as performance.
Right.
It's not your cookie cutter, like, all right, today we're going to talk about ARO and that's our only focus. Well, when we talk about average repair order, there's a lot that actually goes into that. And If we don't have a good guest experience, that's going to affect our sales and our average repair order. If we don't have a good inspection, that's going to affect our average repair order and tech efficient. I mean, there's so many different metrics. So when we talk about performance, really, it's got to be well-rounded. One thing influences the next. It can't just be focused purely on KPIs, which a lot of people out there, when they think about performance, that's where they're living, right? KPIs. How do I hit that? And it's so much more involved in that.
Yeah. When it starts with people, that's why our slogan is people
100%.
plus process equal profit. And that's why, the way that we operate from a coaching perspective is you're going to be meeting with a leadership coach one week, a performance coach the next week. And if you are a lead technician or a shop foreman, we have a technician coach, Joe Hyde, who's great at what he does as well.
Yeah, he is.
So there's a combination of these performance, leadership, technician, coaching calls that you're going to be jumping on. But to Brandon's point, it's so much more than just KPI driven. There are multiple buckets: workflow, processes, shop coaching, sales. Performance itself is a bucket that Brandon works out of. And so I'm really thankful for you, Brandon. I'm glad that you're on the team, and I'm glad that you are just doing incredible things for not only this brand, but also this industry. And that's really what we're all about, is trying to make this industry the best it possibly can be.
Real quick, I just want to jump in real quick. You had mentioned that we are about collaboration, and I think rather than competition. And I think that's something that a lot of people, I don't know, maybe shy away from. And I feel like we embrace it, because when we talk about collaboration, if you're looking for a coaching company, if you're looking for a training company, man, I feel like we're the best out there. I really do. I'm a little biased too, but I would also encourage, go talk to a couple other ones, right?
Interview others. That's right.
Just be if you don't vibe with one, see if you vibe with another. Right. I mean, it's just that, I love when we talk about collaboration, because there is enough of the pie, so to speak.
There is.
In the entire industry, and we can all, as long as we're positively impacting and essentially moving the industry forward and the person forward. It starts with people, right?
Yes. Well, and that's an abundance mindset versus a scarcity mindset. Yeah. And it's probably a good segue into goal setting, because as we are setting goals and reaching for new heights, we need to think with more abundance. We want to shy away from that scarcity mindset. The fear is going to hold us back from taking action. So let's get right into this abundance mindset type of thinking when we're goal setting. Talk about the importance of goal setting. Why do we do it? Yeah. And what does it look like?
Well, I think before we even jump into that, let's talk about, so we are in the fourth quarter, right?
Yep.
And when we think about goal setting, I really think this is the time of year we need to be thinking about this, because I call this goal setting year, or goal setting time. I love this time of year because we get to reflect on what we accomplished this past year, but we're also looking forward and kind of dreaming and kind of maybe, creating a vision and looking forward on what we want to accomplish. So when we talk about goal setting, that's really kind of the mindset we need to start at, right? I always like that analogy, and it works well in our industry because we're talking cars, right? There's a rear view mirror and a windshield for a reason, right? You can't look at both of them at the same time. So we need to be looking at our past and learning from it, but really we need to be looking through the windshield to grow and find the direction in which we need to take. So when we talk about goal setting, why do we have goals? Well, I'll just give you a quick stat from a study that Forbes did a few years ago, and they found that 42% of people are going to achieve their goals if they're more likely to write it down. That's a phenomenal stat. So think about anything in our industry. If you're 42% more likely to achieve it just by writing it down, that's a win, right?
Okay, so the stat is you're 42% more likely to achieve your goals if you write them down, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
So visualize it essentially, right?
Yeah, visualization is going to go a long way with goal setting. Okay, keep going.
Yeah. So I think that's a good stat. It gets a little better, at least what this study tells us. Okay. And you're 64% more likely to achieve your goals if you write them down and create an action plan.
Okay. Brandon, let's hang out here for a second.
Let's do
because this is, so 42% more likely to achieve your goals, 64% more likely if you write them down and create an action plan. Something I share often is that a lot of meetings are a waste of time. Oh, controversial take here, but here's why I say this. Meetings are a waste of time if we don't take action based on what is discussed at the meetings. And it sounds like the same can be said with goal setting.
Yeah.
It's one thing to set goals. It's another thing to take action on them.
Yeah, that's a great analogy because I think we've both been a part of a lot of different meetings where it's just a bunch of talking and there's no action plan or no remedy at the end of that meeting, and it's frustrating, right? Well, same can be said with goal plans. We could set a plan in motion and say, hey, you know what? My shop this year, I want to achieve $3 million. Great. All right, guys, meeting's over. $3 million. Let's go.
You just set the goal.
Right? There's a lot more to that.
Yep.
We need to, like I said, create that action plan, create that roadmap to essentially achieve that goal. So 64%, that's a pretty good stat, right?
Very good. Yeah.
If I write it down and create an action plan. I'm going to tell you it gets a little better though. So you can become 76% more likely to achieve your goals if you write it down, create an action plan. Here's a big one. How about share your action plan with your peers?
Accountability. That's the word, accountability.
And the last one is if you track it weekly.
Okay.
So 76% more likely to achieve our goals if we write them down, create an action plan, share it with our peers, and track it weekly. I mean, you think about from a coaching perspective, and I want to throw this back on kind of how we do what we do, right? Whenever we are, let's just live in the performance section for a little bit. And we can achieve our goals if we write them down. We work off of a Google document, right? A Google document where we take notes, where we write things down, where we plan stuff out, right? So we're writing it down and we're creating action plans based on maybe a call to action that we're giving some of our attendees, right?
Right.
I would hope, and that they're going out and sharing that goal with them, because essentially we're sharing that goal with the shop owner at that point, right? If we give them a goal, if we're talking metrics, we're talking about a behavior change, whatever the case may be, we're setting that goal. We're going to share that with their boss, right? That because that's part of the process.
And a lot of our clients too, like the majority of our clients are service managers or service advisors or technicians. What Brandon and I like to do is we like to give the shop owner the gift of time and money, because we say, look, hey, we understand it's your responsibility to grow and develop leaders within your shop. Let us do that. Let us do that for you. Let a leadership coaching company handle that for you. Mm-hmm. And so being able to do these four things, you mentioned, writing it down, creating an action plan, share them, and track them weekly. We know that what gets measured gets managed. And so when I say that the majority of our clients are service managers, service advisors, technicians, the Google Doc that you referenced is also shared with the shop owner. Yep. The shop owner knows what their calls to action are that we provided them. The calls to action are for growth and development through accountability purposes.
Yeah. And then, like I said, we're talking about that second piece. So we track it weekly. Well, let's live in that performance report that we have our attendees fill out as well, right? That is usually KPI or metric based, but there's a specific reason why we ask them to fill it out. And just like you referenced a couple minutes ago, what they track and write down gets measured, gets improved, and grows, right? You bring awareness to something. And a lot of us that have been in this industry for any length of time, we know that, man, this can be a roller coaster business, ups and downs, peaks and valleys. The hope and the goal that why we do this, why we have them fill out a performance report is so that we know when we have those peaks, when we're climbing up that mountain, whatever we're doing is working. We can continue to push on that gas and push on that process, push on that goal, whatever that case may be. But also when we're in that dip, we're in that valley, we can hopefully catch it soon enough by tracking those metrics, by tracking that performance, and cut it off. So it's not as big of a dip as we would hope. So.
And we can then pivot accordingly. Yep. One of my favorite books, which I know you're very familiar with, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. And one of the 7 habits is to begin with the end in mind. And anytime I think about goal setting, I always think about beginning with the end in mind. And to your point earlier, if I'm going to set goals, like I can set 3 goals pretty quickly right now. Like in 2025, I want to lose 10 pounds. I want to get out of debt. I want to run a marathon. I just set 3 goals in 3 seconds. But now I have to shift my focus from the end in mind onto the steps that I take in order to achieve those goals. How do I do that?
Yeah. Well, I think we have 3 different zones, right? So, and I think what we're talking about whenever we talk about thinking about setting goals or what we should go out and try to achieve, we have 3 zones, right? So we have a comfort zone, which I think both me and you agree, like it's great to live in the comfort zone. It's what we're comfortable, right? But there's not growth that happens in the comfort zone. There's also a chaos zone. Anybody that's run a shop or been in a shop at any length of time, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It can get very chaotic. One of the things that we always talk about and we've talked about for years is invite the chaos. But in order to invite that chaos, you have to have processes in place to be able to manage that workflow. Yes. But there's a chaos zone, right? And the third one, and I think we can agree with that chaos zone, not a lot of growth is happening there, right? It's just putting one fire after one fire out. Yeah. Where we want to be, where we want to live in is that third zone, and that's the potential zone. So when we think of starting to set goals, let's think about what our potential is. And it's funny, there was another survey done where they surveyed, it was right around 4,000 people, and 4% of people thought they were living up to their full potential. Only 4%. So when we think about this, that's a lot of opportunity.
Yeah.
So that's why we start talking about goals, right? Why do we have goals? Well, goals give us direction. They give us purpose. Goals are going to help us focus on really what truly matters. Goals help us measure progress. We talked about the performance report. Like we're measuring that throughout the week, the month, the year, the quarter, whatever. But really, goals are going to lead to growth. And I think when we think about, as you said, the end in mind, starting with the end in mind, I think all of this is trying to either create a habit, develop a habit, change a behavior that's going to put us into that potential zone that's going to lead to some type of growth, whether that's personal growth, whether that's professional growth, whatever the case may be. But that's where we're all trying to strive towards, right? When we talk about goal setting.
And there is no way that we can live in the first of the 3 zones, the comfort zone, no. Because growth and comfort can't coexist. When you talk about setting goals and tracking goals on a weekly basis, we're talking about beginning with the end in mind. I'm hearing a lot of this kind of reverse engineering type of mindset. What does it look like to reverse engineer something? If I'm going to set a goal, what does it mean when I'm reverse engineering that goal?
Yeah. So let's put this into a shop perspective, right? So if we think about this, when I'm setting goals for my shop for 2025, let's just say I'm the shop owner, or I'm the manager, I'm the leader of this box. I'm going to set goals. I'm not just going to throw a number out there. Hey, we did 2.5 million this year. Next year we're going to do 3 million. Good. No, I mean, that might be where we want to end up. That might be what, our business partners, our owners, whatever the case may be, that might be where we need to be. I'm going to go to my team and say, hey guys, we had a phenomenal year. Hopefully you did. And I'm going to say, as we always want to be moving into a growth mentality, into that potential zone, what do you guys want to accomplish for next year? I'm going to throw it on the team, because everyone has different ideas, different things that motivate them, and they all have different goals. So let's see if we can help them essentially discover and achieve the goals that they want to set by putting a big goal for our shop. So the best example I like to give is let's think about technicians, and let's just say for this case study real quick, or this example, that all of our technicians are paid by flag rate, right? So that means the more they produce, the more they get paid. Kind of like a commissioned salesman, right? The more work they find, the more work they discover, the more work they produce, the more they get paid. So let's just keep that in mind. Flag rate is what these technicians are on. I'm going to go up to that technician and say, hey, what do you want to make next year? All right, so let's say they want to set a goal for $100,000, right? They've personally invested in that. That's what they've told you that they want to make. So we're just going to take that number, and you can do this exercise with anyone at the shop. And we're just going to divide that by 50. And you're probably like, Brandon, why would we divide that by 50? Well, 50 weeks out of the year. And you're like, but wait a second, there's 52 weeks out of the year. There is. But we want to give them a vacation, right? So we're going to divide that number by 50. And we know that gives us 2,000. Okay? So that tells us right now that we need somehow that number 2,000. So we're going to divide that by their hourly rate. So let's just say their hourly rate is $30 an hour. That if we divide 2,000 by $30, that tells me we need 66 hours per week for them to produce that $100,000 result. And that's what we talk about when we're reverse engineering something, right? We've created this big number, right? $100,000, but we've backed it down into very small, achievable numbers. And you're going to ask them very simply, is $100,000 achievable is 66 hours achievable at your current rate? Do you need additional training? How can I support you to help you achieve that? And if we think about that too, and let's just say that gentleman is making $40 an hour, right? So now that number is a lot more achievable. It's 50. He needs to flag 50 hours a week to hit that number. And then he might even be like, man, I'm pretty close to that already. Okay, well, how do we achieve it? Let's go.
Love that. And you're locking arms with your team members, empowering them, walking alongside them, trying to help them achieve their goals as well. And I think being able to, go back to the team meeting that you referenced and being able to set goals for the year. Hey guys, you tell me, what are we going to do this year? What can we do this year or next year rather? This allows for your team to know it ensures their voice is heard, their opinions matter, their ideas are considered. The more involved you can be, the more involved you can get them, the better. And it creates that level of engagement that we talk about so often on this podcast, why it's so important. We know that 70% of employees, regardless of the industry, are disengaged at work. And they're disengaged because they don't feel seen, they don't feel heard, they don't feel valued. And this is really where you and I have seen so much benefit from our coaching with our clients, because we believe in this mantra of people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So we get to create safety and trust so that we can provide clarity and direction. So once you establish and create safety and trust, you're providing clarity and direction now in the form of helping them set and achieve the goals personally and professionally for themselves.
Yeah. And, another question I always get, Josh, is, hey, I got this goal in mind. I've talked to the team. How do I, I don't know what the next step is, right? So essentially they're asking me, how do I start? Well, they've already taken that first leap and they've already had that conversation with their team. They've already started thinking about the end in mind, right? They got this number. And that's really the cast of vision, right? We want to essentially on what they want to achieve for that year, that week, that month, that quarter, whatever the case may be. Now we need to define how we're going to measure this. How are we going to measure success? And this is sometimes the part where we tend to get a little bit hung up as leaders, is how are we going to measure the success? And this is where I love, especially if you got a good shop management system and the goal that you're trying to achieve, let's say that $3 million shop again. This is where I love throwing it to the KPIs And that's the vessel, that's the reporting that we're going to use to measure and track how successful we are. So if we think about, if we have that $3 million shop, and let's just say we're looking for a $750 average repair order, we're looking for $150 effective labor rate. That tells me I need 4,000 cars for that year. I divide that by 52. That tells me I need 77 cars per week. Maybe that's achievable. Maybe it's not. Maybe I need to focus on workflow. Maybe I need to hire another technician. Maybe that's very achievable. I just need to work on maybe some of our processes or maybe our workflow to get that to an achievable mark. But now let's break that down even farther, right? So we're, once again, more reverse engineering this big goal that we talked about. We're narrowing it down to smaller, more achievable numbers. So, we break that down. We take that car count. So 77 cars is what we need per week. We divide that by our ARO, so our average repair order. That tells us that we need $57,750. Is that achievable? Yes, yes, no, maybe not. How you're currently staffed. But that, once again, we're reverse engineering that. We're creating essentially how we're going to track this to be successful.
You're providing clarity. And when you're tracking the measurables like this, you're providing that clarity that we talked about earlier, clarity and direction being those two things every person needs and quite frankly deserves in a professional relationship. Yep. And that also answers the why. And I think for a lot of folks, I think we all acknowledge and recognize when the why is clear, the how is easy. Mm-hmm. And so if we know the why, if we understand the why, the how, it becomes easier. And that means we're more likely to achieve those goals that we've set because the why is more clear.
Yeah. So we've defined essentially how we're going to measure our success is kind of what we're talking about. Yep. And now we need to create some kind of an action plan to help us get to that area. Okay. So when we think about action plans, my favorite thing, it's been around for years, is let's just throw a SMART goal on it. We've talked about SMART goals before, and I think a lot of professionals have used a SMART goal in some way, shape, or form. But I think in our industry, SMART goals really aren't something that people use. But a SMART goal is something, it's an acronym, right? So if you write the word SMART, it's specific, it's measurable, it's achievable, it's relevant, it's some kind of a time-bound goal. So let's break that down even farther. So remember, we're trying to create an action plan, a roadmap to get us to whatever goal we're trying to achieve. So specific, we need to be very clear on what we want to accomplish. So let's put this into perspective of that $3 million shop again. Okay, my goal is, 2025, I want to hit $3 million as a shop. That is very specific, right? We've defined exactly what we want to achieve for next year. The second piece is measurable. And this is how are we going to track progress? And we kind of talked about that a little bit. Hopefully you have a good SMS system out there. There's a number of good ones. I know you just had a gentleman, PJ Leslie from TechMetric. That's a great one out there.
Yeah, PJ was the last episode. Yeah, if you haven't listened to it, go back and check it out. And I didn't mean to cut you off, Brandon. Keep on going, man.
Yeah, no, great. Lots of great programs out there. And certainly TechMetric is one of the better ones, in my opinion. So measurable, we're going to track the progress, and hopefully we're using some kind of KPIs to essentially hit this particular goal of that $3 million. And then how are we going to achieve it? Goals should always, essentially, we talked about those 3 zones we want to live in, are essentially the 3 zones that there are.
Yeah, we could live in. We don't want to live in.
We don't want to live in it. No, we don't want to live in the chaos. We don't want to live in the comfort. We want to live in the potential. Yeah. So goals should always challenge you. But we got to keep them realistic, right? So, and one of the things I talk about whenever we're setting goals is, all right, so let's just say you did $2.5 million this year. $3 million is probably a good goal for that next step. Now, that could be a stretch goal. That could be something you think you can achieve really well, or it could push you. What's important about that is it's achievable, right? If we do an adjustment here, an adjustment there, this is an achievable number. What might not be achievable is if we threw a number of, hey, you know what? $8 million. And you did 2.5 the year before, and you're going out of a 4-bay shop. That math don't add up, right?
Be realistic.
Unless something's going out the back door. You know what I mean? We got side business going on. But yeah, so that's probably not an achievable result. And then it's got to be relevant. And what I mean by relevant is I want to make sure that this goal that we're talking about aligns with my overall vision. A lot of times, one of the things that I know me and you both enjoy is positive leadership, and one of the things that John Gordon mentioned is, we can live there's a microscope and there's a telescope, right? A telescope is our big vision. That's the one that we're always trying to keep in front of us. But we live and make decisions in the microscope. Those are the day-to-day decisions that impact that larger vision. So we just want to make sure that when we're setting goals, it aligns with our bigger mission,
Time bound is the next one. So
time. So give yourself a deadline. Give your team a deadline, right? So let's talk about setting an essential goal. So, hey, you know what? We're going to check our progress every quarter, every month, every week, every day. That's going to be the roadmap. But if we say, hey, I want to achieve $3 million by 2026, right? That is a specific time-bound measurement. So that's kind of how we start. And that's kind of the parameters I always like to talk about whenever we're talking about goals and thinking about starting and setting a goal with our team members. So just remember, whenever we're talking about the goal setting, so the purpose why we have goals is, if you recall from the beginning of our conversation, is goals give us clear direction and clear purpose. Goals are going to help us focus on what truly matters. Goals help us measure our progress. Remember, we want to continue to measure how we're and track whether we're winning or not. And then lastly, and more importantly, goals lead to growth. And I can't remember where I heard this. It might have been a John Acuff, quote, but it was, bad goals pause you, new goals nudge you. And I love that because we've all probably had bad goals set in front of us. And that's probably because we weren't involved in the process. But having that involvement, having that ownership, that's going to probably keep you motivated, right? That's going to nudge you essentially along the way. So
anytime you're a part of something, this is why I'm such a big believer in, as a shop owner, it's your ultimate responsibility to cast a clear vision. But I personally believe that your team can carry out the mission towards that vision. So the 3 questions I would ask you is, where are you going? That's your vision. How are you getting there? That's your mission. And why are you doing it? That's your purpose. You as a shop owner can cast a clear vision, but your team can be a part of a mission statement together. They can be a part of the mission statement creation, if you will, together. And when you're a part of something, man, buy-in is it's so much easier when everyone is a part of something. And so when you talk about getting people involved with goal setting, this is why you're going to be able to achieve the goals that you set for 2025.
And everybody's motivated differently, right?
Yeah.
So you can have people that are money motivated. You can have a mission motivated, right? It just depends. Everybody gets that fuel in their tank a little bit differently. So you just gotta find what works for them.
Brandon Jones, everyone, goal setting. This was a fantastic episode. I will ask you, Brandon, the same question I ask most of the guests on this podcast, and that is best advice or best words of wisdom you've ever received from a coach or a mentor.
Oh man,
putting you on the spot with this one.
Yeah, you are throwing me on the spot. I've been very fortunate throughout the years to have a lot of good mentors and essentially leaders that have helped grow and develop me to that next level. But I think the best advice I've received from a number of them is it literally is all about people. So if you keep people in the forefront of everything that you do, whether that's sales, whether that's whatever, that's what's going to be impactful, and that's what's going to drive and keep you moving forward.
People, plus process equal profit.
Man, that sounds familiar.
It does sound familiar. Well, Brandon, what's next for you? I know last time you were on the episode, you were on the podcast, you were getting ready to go speak at the Ratchet and Wrench conference.
Yeah.
And what's coming up for you?
Yeah, Ratchet and Wrench was phenomenal. And big shout out to Ratchet and Wrench and Chris Jones and all those folks that made that event fun and possible. That was a blast. But yeah, what's next for me is we got a training coming up here in the Dallas area. We partnered with Standard Motor Parts, and we are going to be doing kind of a choose your own adventure sort of training, which is pretty unique to the industry. But it's going to focus on sales, guest service, leadership, technician stuff. It's going to be just a phenomenal training. And the fact that SMP stepped up and really helped provide a phenomenal space and for us to deliver this training, it's going to be pretty special. That's coming up here in January. And
yeah,
I'm pretty excited about it.
I am too. January 16th through the 18th in Dallas. One really cool thing that I know, I don't know anyone else who's doing this. I'm not sure that we're the first, but I'm sure we're not going to be the last. Our training books are on Amazon Fire tablets. So if you attend the training, you receive your own Amazon Fire tablet. It's preloaded with your workbook, as well as other Limitless Leadership resources that all of our clients have access to, and other industry-leading websites and resources and materials as well. So all that to say this, man, once again, thanks for being on the episode, Brandon. How can our audience get in touch with you?
I'll give you guys all my email address. It's bjones.salespro, and that's at gmail.com. You can look me up on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. I'm on all the major socials out there, but really involved and really active in the LinkedIn community. But I'll leave you guys with this. If you're looking for a good book recommendation based on what we just talked about, right? Goal setting is all it takes is a goal by John Acuff is a phenomenal goal setting book, and can really help you achieve, what you want. So
love it. John Acuff, one of my faves as well. Well, Brandon, hey, thanks for joining us. This is not going to be your last time on the podcast. And thank you for tuning in to the Limitless Leadership Podcast. Have a great day, everyone. Don't forget to smile today. Tell your loved ones how much they mean to you. I'm Josh Parnell, reminding you to keep